My God, you know, his harmonica, Finocchio, we used to do a set of 3 songs and change, and the place was so cold. Oh yes, Anecdotes, so my poor old throat can last for a while here. I'm going to use the mic, and I'm going to do some body movements without a mic, and if you cannot hear me, just say, use the mic! Oh dear. It's so hard to do a show about people that passed away, because I worked with them. Although everybody was not kind, there were some bitches there, which I won't mention in the show, because they gave me some hard time. But the ones I do mention were very special to me. Here, of course, Carol Wallace, DMC. And Carol Wallace, he looked to me like a very elegant Jewish lady going to the opera. Beautiful costume, in the 60s, you know, very elegant ladies. And he wore what they call a very expensive glue-on wig. Not just the one you glue on here, but you glue here, here, and here. So when he pulled the face back, he looked young and so pretty. And he has such a tiny head. The wig was very small. And he said, David, they used parachute material too, inside so it would last. But the hair was all European hair, so I cut these wigs. And he used to take me once in a while to Chinatown to have breakfast. And then when he learned that I like birds, he said, I'm going to be David. So he said, come to my house one day. And I went there, and he had about 50 parrots for sale. I said, well, honey, I don't sell parrots, I just collect them for rescuing. He said, oh, I'm in the business, in the parrot business. Oh, I never forget that. Now, Russell Reed. Where am I? Russell. You gotta get lost. You were so heavy. Where in the heck? Russell Reed. Oh, here. Oh, my dear. I can see you. He was my dressing room roommate. And he was in those days, being heavy was a big deal. Nowadays, if he was alive, his act wouldn't go over, because he would say, have you seen anybody being so fat? And people would laugh because he was 300 pounds. They used to call him the ton of fun Russell Reed. Now, Russell didn't get along with Carol Wallace. I never found out why. Before they were Finocchios, I understand that he and Carol worked in a review that Carol took all over the place, like Alaska and Hawaii and so on. Anyway, so let me do this without mic, and if you don't hear me, I get back to this because there's no boom mic signing here. Russell Reed will come out from the dressing room, and we had a very steep staircase going from the dressing rooms to the actual club. Finocchio's was here, there was another building, and both were connected with a metal door. So I don't know how we didn't kill ourselves going in those steep steps in high heels, you know. Well, anyway, so Russell would say to me, you know the song I sang, Tombola? Because everybody liked it, they used to call me as a loving name. Instead of saying David, they would say Tombola. Or Russell, he wanted to be very chic, he would say, Mr. Alba. I said, yes, Russell. He says, I am going to go downstairs. I hope Carol Wallace doesn't hear me. Because Carol Wallace had a tiny dressing room and he would hear everything. So Carol would be giggling, ah, Russell's coming down. So here's Russell with 300 pounds with a dress thing. Once I got here, Carol Wallace would say, Russell, I need a mint for my throat. If you give me a mint, I'll give you a better introduction. So Russell Reed, who had already a mint for him here, he said, I knew that. Give us your damn mint. Every single night he went like that. One night, Russell, in between shows, he would like to lay down. I don't want to tear my costume. He would lay down under the makeup table. And I saw one night, well, I was 21 years old, I was very young, I saw he died. So I took my mirror and I went like that to him. And And he said, oh, so he woke up. What are you doing, Mr. De Alba? I said, I thought something happened to you. I said, for a comedian, you're not a very good sport, are you? Now, let's see. Oh, then Russell, another time. I mean, some of these other performers were wonderful, but they didn't have any anecdotes for me because they used to go to the dressing room and get dressed. But Russell and Carol was something else. So another time, Russell, he was coming downstairs. This involves Carol Wallace. Carol Wallace was afraid of certain animals, and I'll tell you why. Here's the wings, and here's the stage door that opens to the street. So he would open that door, and with that fog and the cold air, I don't know why, perspiring like I'm now, we didn't catch a pneumonia and die. He would go outside between acts. And one night, this huge rat, not a mouse, a rat, she must have been pregnant. She walked in. And Carol Wallace didn't notice that, but Carol Wallace was terrified of it. And when he saw the rat, this is a sight to be seen. Here is the pianist before the wonderful Bill Buller took over, Helen Buccello. She would play, even if there was an earthquake, nothing would move her. She would be playing like this. So, you know, love her. So Carol goes, which we were not supposed to go and drag in the audience. Carol, like, oh my God, there's a rat in the house. I said, there's many rats here, honey. So he ran all the way to the front. But the front is what Maria Filippis, Mrs. Finocchio's sister, which I couldn't find it. All this year I can't find a photograph. She was a tiny, dark-skinned Italian lady with a short, cropped, what they call in those days, oh my dear. Anyway, a very, what do we call it? A shingle haircut. Shingle haircut and red nails painted. And she also would be very, you know, nonchalant, like, yes, Carol. I can't do the voice. Yes. Oh, there's a rat in the back. She said, a rat? She thought she meant somebody in the show. No, a real rat. So now we had a host by the name of Joe Noble, an African-American guy. He was always on marijuana, so he would be dog park in the front. And Maria says, Joe, go backstage and take a broom and kill the rat. Now comes Joe Noble, full of marijuana, I guess. Where is the broom? And then he was going to go, he almost hit Carol. No, not me, the rat. Oh, the rat went out. So, Rigidal, where's my dear Reggie? He was gorgeous. He shot it from upstairs. One of Carol's family members, a rat, came to visit tonight. Well, Reggie could be, I was told he was half Cherokee Indian and Caucasian. He was very gorgeous. And he would change from very sweet, and when he was upset for something, out of that beautiful face, the most horrible, dirty words, he would say. So, once in a while, when he was in a good mood, he would say to me, when I would see him do his warm-ups before the show, I said, you're always doing so nice. Thank you, David. But one night he was very upset with me because the rooms of Finocchio's is so cold, you know, they never had a heater on. So every night I would freeze to death, even in the summertime. Hemingway said, well, the coldest winters was the summer in San Francisco. He was right. So I bought a tiny heater, and I put a heater in the room. And Russell says, oh, Mr. De Alba, I hope you don't get in trouble with Maria. I said, why? Oh, because, you know, they don't like us to do anything like this without permission. Well, I knew LeBron come inside a tiny heater, but nobody would say anything because he was the star of the show. So anyway, somebody must have blabbed down to Maria. So Maria came upstairs. Oh, David, oh, please, dear, turn this heater off. This club is very old. And if the electricity goes off, we'll have no show. Please turn it off. Then I said, okay. So I took the heater home at night. Next morning, Mr. Finocchio's voice reminds me a little bit of Joe Crawford. He would say, "Hello, Dave." I can't do the voice. "Hello, Dave. This is Mrs. Finocchio. I heard you brought a heater last night. Please, dear, all you have to ask is for the janitor to turn our heater. We have a wonderful heater. So tonight you'll be warm." Well, they had a furnace, an old-fashioned furnace, that when the heater came on, it was just like a cremation room. So everybody was perspiring. So he reached out, screamed from his dressing room, "Thanks to David de Alba, we are all perspiring tonight, and our makeup is melting like butter." And then he wouldn't talk to me. And next day, he must have called because they turned the heater off, and we went back to the cold air. One last anecdote, which is a dream. My dear, I have to quiz this here because otherwise they'll get mad with me. There's the only thing, the anecdote about me. Bobby de Castro, my Cuban dancer, he was so wonderful to me. And the great Lucia, who did Sophie Tucker and wore the Sophie Tucker's real gowns. Lucian had a birthday. Anyway, Lucian had a birthday. Every week when we went out, he would say to the restaurant people, "Tonight's my birthday." And being that he was an old guy, people, "Oh yes, give him a candle." Anyway, but this was his real birthday. So, dear Bobby de Castro went to Blum's. Blum's was a very famous bakery shop near the Union Square. And he bought a very expensive, in those days, cake. He brought it. So he said, "Oh, Lucian, here's the cake. Oh, wonderful." So Lucian started to eat, which he never did in between shows, by the way. He was eating and eating. On the way downstairs to his act, he says, I have to tell you why he said this here. "I am going to call Mrs. Finocchio tomorrow morning. I think Bobby de Castro has poisoned me with his cake. I don't think I'll be able to show up to work tomorrow." Bobby de Castro was a man. He said, "I'll never buy this old guy any cake anymore." Well, what happened was, at Finocchio's, we had some people that were considered pets, P-E-T-S, and some pets, P-E-S-T-S. I was in between. So, some people would call in the morning at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, some of the entertainers, "Mr. Finocchio, you know what David Alba did?" Or "Mr. Finocchio, you know what Russell Reed did?" And she would hear all this gossip, all the instigation. So, this is why he would say, "I'll call Mr. Finocchio." One day I approached Mr. Finocchio. I said, "Mr. Finocchio, why do you listen to all this cheap gossip?" "Oh, David, I just listen to whatever I want. I don't listen to everything." I said, "I know, but just listen to half of the lies is enough to, they try to get people in trouble here." So, and I said to her, when you let people go, she said, "Oh no, we never fire people at Finocchio's. We just let them go." I said, "I know, but when you just let people go, instead of firing and let go is the same thing." And this brings me about because Russell Reed was let go before Christmas, which you get your check and this is your Christmas present to be let go. So he was doing an act. One day he says, "I'm going to do a new act," because he hadn't changed his act for a long time. And he came out dressed. He said, "David de Alba, get out of this dressing room. I don't want anybody to see me until I'm ready." So I didn't know what he was doing, so only the band knew the song. So he came out, and he looked more like Baby Jane in the movie with Betty Davis, with a curly wig and this dress, and all the events, the chorus dance, and the people were there. He says, "This is my new act." So he went downstairs. He says, "Carol, give me some soft lies to make me feel like a little girl again." So he started singing a song that was like a "Joshua, Joshua, oh what a wonderful boy you are. You'll be pleased to know you are my favorite boy." Very cute song. Next day, somebody must have called Miss Finocchio because she said, "Take the song out." Well, those songs cost like $180 for the 3 pieces. And the customer, then he was let go. So this is the way they treated people. I must say for the Finocchios, they paid on time. They were never prejudiced. They had Filipinos, Asians, Cubans, African Americans, everybody, gays, straight, everybody could think of in the show. And they promoted, like Carol was to say, welcome to the world-famous Finocchio Club, the fabulous house of female impersonators. We have 4 shows every night, and once you pay your admission charge, you can stay for as many shows as you want. Florence Ziegfeld made the American girl a dream. Here we glorify the American boy. Oh, Mr. Finocchio. So he would do things like that, or, you know, his accent was delightful. But I was always afraid of him because, you know, he was very stern. But anyway, there's so many anecdotes, but there's, oh, he's talking too long, but it's so hard to have you near me, and I want to share some of the things that will never be let known again. And of course, Laverne Cummins, he was the Encyclopedia Britannica of music. Oh, a cute story about him. One night, Mr. Finocchio was saying, oh, we have a hundred people write to our club every week, every month, singers begging to come in here, so, trying to scare us. So he said, so we don't need any new faces in my club. So Laverne Cummins was coming out, and he said with his baritone voice, what's wrong with the old faces, Mr. Finocchio? And Mr. Finocchio just ran out like that here. Another time, Carol Wallace, he was very beautiful when he was young. Even Russell Reed, who didn't get along with him, would say to me, you know, David, Mr. Alba, Carol was flawless when he was 21. He said, and he would say to the people in the show when he was 21, ladies and gentlemen, tonight I celebrate 30 years in show business. So people would say, how can that flawless face be over 30? He says, but the trouble, Mr. Alba, now at Finocchio's, many, many years later, when Carol Wallace tells the people, ladies and gentlemen, I have been in show business for 40 years, he looks at it. So then he heard that. So one day, Carol Wallace says, Mr. Finocchio, he was backstage, didn't you tell me when I joined this club that I was the prettiest of all the boys you had in drag here? I guess he must have told him that. So Mr. Finocchio, when he wanted to get away from something, he said, I have to go now, I have to go now. And he left Carol hanging with the word. Well, anyway, I'm glad you're over 40 because the young kids, they will find this rather corny. But these things happened, and even more things. And these kids, of course, here, I guess, in Finocchio events. And of course, I have to mention my friend, he's still alive, René de Carlo. He used to call me Chula. That means in Spanish, pretty girl. So I had no anecdotes about him because he was very quiet. The only thing is, when I would do my Spanish song, he would be in the wings with his castanets playing. And I still remember his castanets. So I called him and said, you should come to my show here. There's only 2 survivors, Laverne and I, because Kenny is not an impersonator. I said, you're the only boy left on the show from that time. Oh yes, Chula, I should come. I said, yes, but come when I'm alive here. I want to present you here, not to send you flowers when you're dead. That's why I like the flowers now, so I can enjoy them, you know. Now I'm going to change, so I can do other songs for you. And at least you got an idea of some of the videos about the boys in the show, and about Mrs. Finocchio. And although the nightclub was called the House of Hate, and also was called the Elephants Burial Ground, the Old Elephants Burial Ground, I didn't mind that because Mr. and Mrs. Finocchio let some of the older entertainers have a job, so that was very nice of them. But the instigation, honey, forget it. It's hard enough to get up on the stage and sing, but to have all these people instigating against you, and then calling the manager next day to get you in trouble, no, that part I didn't like. And I told her once, he said, oh, David, well-known beauty salon. She says, but if I let you go, David, you don't need this job. You have your mom and your friend Paul and your wonderful beauty salon. But my Yvette's, her love, her dancers, oh, if I let one of the Yvettes go, where would they go? I said, well, like everybody else, get a job doing something else. Oh, no. Well, the Yvettes were named after her, Eve. So, if you wanted to preserve your job, you became an Yvette. She said to me one day, would you like to be an Yvette, Miss Dave? I said, I appreciate that great honor, Mrs. Finocchio, but I don't like to be a chorus dancer. I'd rather remain an act. Okay, dear. They said to me, you should have said yes, because it's like slapping her face. The Yvette's, honey. Then, when the show closed, she said one day to me, she called me in Arizona. She said, oh, Dave, I'm devastated. The club closed. I said, yes, I'm sorry, Miss Finocchio. And I'm sure that all the people they used to call you to instigate, they're not going to be calling you now because there's no more club. I said, but the nice people, like me, Russell, who was very nice, we never instigated. We always send you Christmas cards and we get in touch. Those are the people you count. So she used to send me Christmas cards after I left California. How are you doing? I said, those are the people that keep you in your heart. And I show that because if I didn't do this, nobody would do this tribute. And I want this to be known. Now I don't want to just sugarcoat and pretend I'm Dorothy, gay of Kansas. Oh, everything was a